I'm going to be talking to Karthik Velayutham, who is the co-CEO of Katrick Technologies. That company has designed a unique panel system for harnessing wind power. I guess it would compete with wind turbines. So welcome to the interview, Karthik.
Thank you, Mark.
Can you describe for us how this works? I can't imagine how you harness wind with a panel as the blades on a wind turbine, I understand, but how does this work?
So to give you a background, a wind turbine works perfectly well if the wind flow is laminar, which is normally the case 20 meters above the ground. So they are spinning a turbine, a shaft in the center, and all the energy is focused on the single shaft. But if you go towards the ground level, you got lots of gust winds, you got wind channeling effects, and the wind is very turbulent. So if you try to spin something, which is all the energy is focused to one single shaft, you get lots of imbalance, and you got lots of reliability problem. So that's why you don't see any wind rotary type wind system have worked on the ground level urban spaces. In order to overcome that, we got multiple aerofoils, which works very similar to any wind turbine. So it works on the lift phenomenon. So the aerofoils swing, but we have a mechanism which changes the angle of attack, so it comes back. So we got multiple of that aerofoil. They work independently to each other. And each of this aerofoil is placed inside a duct. The duct enhances the efficiency of the system, but it also it also protects the aerofoils because of the turbulent wind condition. The key concept, what we are trying to do, because the wind flow is highly random on the ground level, we have sacrificed some of the efficiency of the system to increase the reliability of the system. So that's why we call it a wind panel. It looked like more like a wind panel. It looks like a panel, and it also has the ability to reduce noise.
So what are the advantages of having panels like this? Can you put them on the roof of your house or your garage, that sort of thing?
Yes. One of the key advantage is let's go back to the wind turbine. What is the issue of the wind turbine? Wind turbine works good if in a wind farm, but if you try to bring it to urban landscape, one of the key issue it will face is the aesthetics. And everyone wants wind turbines, wind power, but they don't want it in their backyard. So if you want to bring wind system into the urban landscape, you have to it has to be aesthetically pleasing. So that's the number one factor. But the key thing is it works on the turbulent wind condition. So that's the key advantage of the system. So it actually works on the urban locations.
Can it produce electricity at a cost that's competitive with wind turbines, which I think now we're kind of in the $40 to $20 a megawatt hour range, if I understand correctly. Are you competitive with that?
No, because it's a new system. The cost we measure LCO, levelized cost per producing 1 kilowatt hour of power. So we are not trying to compete directly with the wind turbines. Wind turbines is a very mature technology, and at the moment we are from UK, so it's producing about 4 pence, which is similar to what you said in Canada. It's also quite similar everywhere. This system will produce electricity probably twice at twice the cost, probably about $80 per megawatt hour. But the key factor is we are not trying to compete with the wind turbine. We are trying to bring a wind energy on the gray area, which so far no one has ever tapped. So you don't need to start building new wind farms, which normally takes about 8 years to get planning permission in Europe. You can use the urban spaces that we have enormous urban spaces. So that's why airports, for instance, no way they could bring any rotary devices into their premises. So a number of airports are actually speaking to us. They want to deploy this. We can enter into lots of factories, lots of logistics centers, lots of buildings. So you can't put any other system there apart from solar. And if you take the northern hemisphere, solar is good, but still it's only producing about its load factor is about 8 to 12%. So we believe that this wind technology will come and play a big role in that.
Do the economics matter, like the levelized cost of energy? So let's say it's $80 a megawatt hour. But if you're talking about micro generation where the electricity isn't being transported, it isn't being distributed, there aren't those costs attached. Like what I guess where I'm going with this is that I see a lot of homeowners are complaining these days, in Canada at least, that it's not the cost of the power that's prohibitive or is burdensome, it's the cost of distribution and transmission. And so if you have micro generation, then you avoid those costs. And then does $80 a megawatt hour, is it a lot more competitive?
Yes, it's exactly, that's the whole concept of what we are trying to do. What this wind product is all about is called behind the meter concept. So you're not trying to send the power to the national grid. And that's when you need to produce the cost at $20 to $40 per megawatt hour. But this is a big behind the meter concept. So it's you generate and you use it. A number of hydrogen technology companies or people who wants to create, it's called Hydrogen Island. So they want to create hydrogen processing unit, which is not going to rely on the national grid. So they are speaking to us in terms of producing. So it's also a behind the meter concept. So at the moment, the only behind the meter concept is solar. So which actually works. But so wind is, the energy density of wind is much higher because we have worked out the solution how to tap the wind at this ground and urban landscape. So there is a huge scope for that.
Now, I know with talking to utilities that there's a tremendous, well, there's quite a concern that big commercial and industrial customers are going to self-generate. And so they're thinking right now in terms primarily of solar. But it would seem to me that if you're a big operation that can afford to invest in solar panels, that you might want to add your wind panels to it and have the solar and the wind working together. That would actually maybe be a little more reliable for your business operation, your industrial operation. Is that a fair take on that?
Yes, a number of these industries are actually speaking to us. They are actually, we are signing contracts, soft order books. We at this stage, we cannot name the company, but it's one of the top luxurious car brand based in the UK. One of their thing is they installed about 42,000 solar panels on their roof, but it's only producing about 5 to 10% of their electricity requirements. And their electricity requirements is only 40% of their overall energy usage. Most of this coming, a big chunk is coming as their heating requirement. So 70%, 60 to 70% of their energy usage for a building is for heating. So there are two elements that they are looking: wind to electricity and wind to heat. So this can play a huge role. We are not saying we are better than solar or we are worse than any wind turbines. There is a gray area, and we want to tap into that gray area. Lots of solar companies are also talking to us that you can actually put solar panels on the side mount of the wind panels. So it's a hybrid system.
Well, that's very interesting. So tell us about where your company is at. I assume this is a startup, and are you commercially? Are you manufacturing for commercial distribution yet, or where are you at in your company growth?
So our company is a technology development company. One of the key things I found in my journey of research and development is lots of startup company fails because they want to do the end-to-end processing. So they come up with the technology and they want to manufacture, distribute, and so on. That's not going to work. We are very good in bringing a technology, but if we want to bring that into the market, we want lots of different players to play their role. You cannot sell your technology, you can only sell your product. So our business model is we develop the technology, and then we bring potential OEMs in, and then who will take that technology, convert that into product, and then they will bring aggregators, and who will then place it into multiple locations or sell it to the end users. We are actually talking to some of the biggest OEMs and also some of the largest aggregators, because we know how what impact that this will bring. So we want bigger players to play their role. So those conversations are going in a very good. It's actually going faster than what we expected. So the whole business model has speed up now. So.
Okay, so help me understand here. You're technology developers. You develop the intellectual property. You've got
Yes.
the patents and the designs, and then you look for manufacturers. They might be solar panel manufacturers, but these are the folks that will have the manufacturing capacity. They can scale it up. They have the distribution systems. They have all of that in place, and then you license the technology to them.
Yes. We are actually speaking to a very big OEM. We can't name them. We are actually working together with them now. They are changing their entire business model because they want to diversify from what they are doing. Very experienced. They have global presence. So they are doing the engineering work of the technology. And then we are also speaking to some large aggregators who maintain multi-gigawatts of wind farms globally. So they have the experience from bringing that product onto the locations, install, maintain, and so on. So we're actually talking to a number of big companies now to bring this, to fast track the technology coming into the market.
So when are we going to see these wind panels installed on buildings?
So the aim is in the next 6 to 8 months, we have already signed with multiple end users that we will install prototypes, because we need to go through a regulatory part. We are also speaking to the governments simultaneously to fast track everything. So in about 12 months time, we will bring. But initially, we got a number of people signed for the lots of industries, airports have signed for the first batch of production. So to see on roofs and so on, I would say probably 18 to 24 months, because we have to fulfill our first batch of customers, which is already quite massive for us.
Well, thank you very much for doing the interview, and good luck with your company and your product, and really appreciate this.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.